Alright, hello everyone, welcome to the podcast. Today I'm going over my opinion on the Shane Dawson, The Mind of Jake Paul. It's fucking long as fuck. I've only gone through the first 4 episodes in this podcast. I'm probably going to end up going through the next 4 in a second podcast. It's just going to end up too long as a full podcast for what I want to do. And this fucking thing's so long, man. Everything's so traumatized. But I'm going to go over what I think from each different episode. Like each where you got the Mind of Jake Paul, Dark Side Jake Paul, Family and Enemies of Jake Paul and all that. Shane Dawson's covering a lot of stuff, but we're not really getting anywhere with it. So I'm going to start off with the Mind of Jake Paul. So the first 10 minutes, obviously, in the first episode, he's got a sponsorship from Honey. So that takes like a minute at most. But then he's got this voicemail and he's off Jake and he's got all this other stuff like text and he's taking it way too over the top. And again, he needs people to watch it. He wants it to be able to be watched. But putting it really over dramatized, it gets a little bit boring. Like if you keep doing it over and over again, you're not getting anything new. If it was usually a bit calmer and then boom, all of a sudden there's this big drama and nothing's calm anymore, then people get more interested, then people start to like it, which is what Shane should have done really. You can't really have this sort of way of portraying it where everything's just crazy all the time, because then he's not really changing it up from Jake Paul's vlogs, if you know what I mean. Jake Paul makes everything crazy, and when truth is it's not. It seems that everything that he's doing is just serial killer, everything's crazy, he's a sociopath, oh my god. And there's a lot of stuff about just his videos, like half of that at least could have been cut from the video. But yeah, the bloody fucking the voicemail, it's a voicemail. It's a person with an audio track. It's not going to kill you. But he's like, oh, is this a good idea or not? Should I do this, Karen? We all obviously know you're gonna do this. We've seen the fucking 40-minute long video or whatever, and we know that you're doing it. So it's just kind of pointless and stupid and kind of needs to be cut out. So that first 10 minutes is kind of wasted, and you're really just bored of all that, and you just need something to get onto so you actually get proper content other than Shane questioning the series. So then you got the last half an hour of it, and he goes into a Skype call with Inaba, and that the whole thing, it could have been shortened a lot. They're going through a lot of Team 10s leaving and how Jake was very abusive towards them. Not particularly physically all the time, except you've got all the Alyssa Violet thing. But the twins and Nick Crumpton and his best friends and all the other people, all those people that kept leaving Team 10, they went through a lot of that, and they did talk about how Jake, it could be very manipulative in what he's doing and how that affects the people around him and how it affects how he portrays himself on YouTube. Has this affected him to make himself want to be better? That is a very serious thing that they need to explain. But the whole thing with Inaba, yes, it's a conversation and it seemed fairly important to the video, but it could have been shortened to a 15 minutes, but you extend your watch time, you got lots of fucking ads, so in the millions of views and all that, and the sponsorship as well. So Shane's racking a lot of money from this, so we can't really be sure if all of this is planned by Jake. That is a very controversial topic as to where is this all planned, and is Jake doing this for views, and is Shane doing this for views, or is there something actually planned? He wants a happy ending. You can obviously can't agree with him You can't disagree with him. Like, a happy ending, but what is that happy ending to other people's verdicts? Like, happy ending, oh, he's not a sociopath. Okay, we're not going to diagnose him with a mental disorder. But that just means he's a bit of a heartless prick. But then if we do diagnose him, we're diagnosing him, there's something wrong, but that's also a bad. We know that it is, and we can figure out a way, but also it's bad to just label someone as that. You can't just immediately have someone labelled as a sociopath, and then that's how they're treated. It's not how they want to do it. So the good ending is going to be very controversial, I think, when I watch the 1 hour and 45, the last episode, man. Jesus, so much I need to watch still. But, yeah, I'm expecting a lot of that to need to be cut down. But, Mind of Jake Paul, the first episode, very over the top, very uncut. Well, it is very overly edited, but overly edited to make it seem like it's fast paced, when really it's 40 minutes of just waffle about, oh, Jake did this, Jake did that, is he abusing his Team 10 members and stuff. Like, a lot of people have already discussed this. We want to get into the stuff that people don't usually discuss, and then when you start to get that, you can layer it on with more stuff that people already know about, then, which gets them to rethink what they've already seen. So, that was the first episode, obviously over the top, but it was still an alright video. Then we move on to the dark side of Jake Paul, which does go through a lot with the psychologist, where they do a lot of stuff about the tendencies, and they do show stuff about Jake's life, which it kind of works and makes you realise, oh, means this, and I haven't been thinking about this the way I should have been. It does spur a lot of different controversy about how they're really gonna sort of analyse new situations. Like, they're going through, like, oh, rethink of what my friends are like, and I know these people, could they be a sociopath? But it's very odd when you got the first 3 minutes, right? Shane's about to go over to the psychologist's house, and psychopath is used twice in the first 3 minutes. So already we've got some conflicting stuff, and on the way he does make a lot of twists that don't seem very necessary. Like he's trying to portray this as really dark and horror-like, but not really, if you know what I mean. He's trying to make it scary and boomy, but by making it scary and boomy, he's gone over the top on every single point. Like, he talks about the dogs, for example. He was like, oh, he likes animals, or is he pretending to like animals? And we're like, mate, give it a fucking rest. He probably likes animals, he does treat it decently well. The dogs seems very happy, and they do not show anything bad with the dog, usually. So, you can't really just twist everything and make it seem like it's how you want it to portray. If it's how you want to portray, then it's not necessarily the full truth. Because Shane is explaining, and Jake has explained, that they want the full truth. They want to go through this all and explain what they're thinking. So it's kind of hard to discuss what's going on when Shane's overdoing everything, twists that don't even really matter. A fake relationship, yes, it could be fake, but still, it seems to, I don't know what it being fake really does. There's different ways it could be fake, the relationship that they go through. There could be, it's fake for the viewers are being fake with this. The viewers are being kind of distributed this content that isn't real, like a fake prank, for example. If they're given this thing and it's fake, then oh well, that's a bit of an annoying thing. But like, it was still entertaining to watch. And if it's not real, like, so what? So they get to the psychologist's house, and they do go through a lot, but a lot of it is just, oh, this is a trait of a sociopath. Here's a clip of Jake that links to it. There is a lot of that. But if they just went through a lot of it, and then just said, oh, this is this, this is this, this is this, just getting all the points across, and then just making it like that, well, it would have been a lot better to watch, because if you're stretching it out and using a lot of different content and just making it over the top and seem like it's... Again, he's overdoing it, and he's realised he's overdoing it, so he's tried to calm it down a bit, but still, he does understand that people need the drama to watch the thing, but he did it too much, I think. So he's kind of lost the audience's appeal slightly. Obviously, I still enjoyed the series. It's been a pretty good series so far, but there are a lot of lengthy conversations and a lot of that stuff which could be cut out, and which does again raise controversy, like, did he cut this out? Is there something that Shane's hiding with this? Which does lead me on to the next point I'm trying to make, is the using the sociopathic tendencies and swearing, is Shane Dawson himself a sociopath? Because if you see in some cases, like the FuseTube, he was very aware of all the stuff that was going on, but then, and how FuseTube was overselling it, but then in his own content he's not really realising it. So there is some kind of barrier there that kind of mixes in with that. There's also the no empathy or worry. Well, they went through this and said there's no really empathy. They're like, oh, so what, who cares? I haven't seen much of Jake, but I can tell that Jake will have some emotion behind him. He's not a faceless robot. He doesn't just see someone die and not care. Again, he has done stuff like in the losing a Jake Paula video vlog that he made a while ago. He starts off the video like a really happy tone, like, well, he started it sad. Then boom, intro, let's go, fucking champagne across the bed, everything all like that, and yeah, it does seem not real and just completely disingenuous to what the video is trying to be. But you can't really just look at some clips, like all the stuff that Jake will have been on, almost all of it except that Hollywood fix where they're showing his making of a vlog, where everything seems to be really cut, really edited. A lot of it takes a while, but they get it all set up and then they're like, right, let's move on to the next thing. Most of the stuff that Jake is portrayed on, he knows is going to be seen by a lot of people. He knows that if he fucks up, people are going to know and people are going to realise that something is wrong. So he's obviously, if he shows this empathy, people are going to think he's a bit different, something's happened, sparking controversy, which Jake might not necessarily want. Obviously, controversy before, it did help him a lot, but still, he would receive backlash from several people, would be swarming him and making him more uncomfortable with his current situation. So, he will have empathy. He just puts on an act, I think, because he knows that it's going to be seen by millions. But above the rules, crime, like, he's done a bit. He's kind of done. He has done crime. He did the Post Malone thing, and the recording people, like, recording the conversations when he probably knew full well that he shouldn't have. Obviously, there is some kind of trace where he has sociopathic tendencies. That doesn't mean that he is a sociopath and that he's manipulating all these people for, like, views and stuff. That's not what I think is going to happen. I just think Jake is a person who was bewildered by the fame and took it upon himself to make himself even better than he already was in the eyes of the public, but has gone too far and gone over the top to what he was supposed to do. But now he's in that predicament where if he does go back, people are going to stop watching him. People aren't going to get that Jake Paul savage, all that kind of stuff in their videos. They're going to see a light-hearted person, and they don't want that, so he's going to lose followers. Obviously, the controversy with FaZe Banks, that's when people realised that a lot of the stuff that Jake was doing was lying. He wasn't actually telling the truth, which is why on the H3 podcast, he was shown to be losing subs because of all this controversy. Everyone had realised what he had done and then took it upon themselves to not want to watch that person. They have seen what's happened and they don't like that person anymore. So it does obviously spark a lot of different opinions and conflicting ways of, is Jake Paul a sociopath? On one hand, there is a big thing about the lack of empathy or worry. Jake Paul obviously have, from what I've seen, some empathy. He will have that empathy. I do not think that he is putting it on and just conning people with a fake act that he has seen before. It does seem very genuine, a lot of it, but then you gotta question, are we being fooled? Has Jake been that manipulative? So it is quite controversial when you look at it. So let's see. Moving on to the family of Jake Paul. Shane, this is going into is Shane secretly a sociopath? He immediately addresses the backlash that he got from being this over-dramatised horror representing the mental disorder in the wrong light. But he immediately acts sorry and understanding of that, and he puts on this voice of, oh, I'm really sorry and I really don't want to do this. I know what you guys want and I'm just trying to do it, and he's trying to get these people to sympathise with him, which is what he talked about in the previous video. He talked about getting empathy, what Jay did, got empathy from other people. So what if that beginning where he's appealing to his audience, what if that was an act itself, and what if he was actually a sociopath himself and secretly he was just trying to manipulate his audience to be projecting this person to be this. He's been able to he's manipulated enough of an audience to be able to project that onto others and give his opinions, and then that twists other people's ideas, which anyone can do. But with Shane's massive audience, he does also realise on a less heavier scale than Jake that he has this fame. He can influence a lot of people at once, and he knows that what he puts out, some people will agree with him and he will have some kind of backing to him. So he went through this Twitter DM, I think, with Logan about sociopathic tendencies. Logan made it very clear that he doesn't think his brother is a sociopath. He understands that Jake shows sociopathic tendencies, which for me I can see as quite an honest kind of review. Like, he's not fully saying, oh, Jake's not a sociopath, you're entirely wrong, just leave us alone. He's explaining that, yes, Jake will have some sociopathic tendencies, but he's not a sociopath. He explains that we all have sociopathic tendencies, and it kind of doesn't, it's a lot of mixing and matching. You can't really decide what's what with a sociopath. A psychopath would be very different, but Jake is not a psychopath, obviously. He's not one of those people portrayed as a crazy person with antisocial behaviour. He's very social. He's very acting upon it, so he's not a psychopath. So we understand that a sociopath is developed, which I will talk about later when he goes into the family. But when he's talking about Logan and how people might be afraid to admit that they have these tendencies, which is what he's portraying Jake might have, which also he could have, to be honest, Shane. He could also have that sociopathic tendencies that he's not willing to admit, and he puts it on for a laugh, but really he could be trying to be very scared of what he's seeing and how it's opened him up to not only looking into Jake Paul and his friends, but also himself as a person. So yeah, he does that 10 minutes of like unnecessary talk again about Logan and DM. It's not really much interest, and I ended up watching the rest of this Shane Dawson thing from the dark side of Jake Paul, the episode 2, all the way to the end of Enemies of Jake Paul on 1.5 speed, just so I could get through it all, because they are long fucking episodes and you just drag them out a lot, so I ended up watching on 1.5 speed just so I could go through it all. But he does talk about a lot of stuff to do with the family on YouTube. Like, there is a family of YouTubers. You've got Jake and Logan Paul, obviously, they're the big YouTubers. We also got Greg Paul, like the vlog dad, and then you got the mum, the Pamela. She's got a Pamela kind of YouTube audience, and there is a lot of that kind of stuff that they do go into about it's all an act, and there's a lot of verbal abuse from Greg Paul. They try to go through that Greg Paul was the main decision for a lot of people leaving Team 10, and that Greg Paul has had an influence on the Team 10 and try to take control of all of that. But yeah, it does seem really conflicting when I had this initial idea that the parents have had an effect, and it's all been due to the raising of them and how they act now. Everyone assumes that's the cause, and that's why Jake and Logan are so bad, and their parents are bad as well, because their parents made them like that. But then you have the thing that the sons got fame from the Vine and then moved it onto YouTube, both of them, and occasionally Instagram. But has the son's attitude to receiving the fame, have their parents seen that, and has that twisted the way the parents act? The parents might not exactly know how they're doing this, but they are reflections of their son's attitude. They are doing the stuff because they see that their sons are successful, and they want to capitalise off that, and they know that they can get something interesting to do with that and then make a living with that. So it does spark that who is to blame here? Is it has the parents just been that way and influenced them, or is Jake and Logan receiving the fame, being able to get more confidence from the parents to be able to influence them and end up being manipulative as well? Are the parents manipulative in this scenario? It's a very different matter that is being discussed a lot, and Shane does express clearly that he doesn't want to just explain, oh, it's their family's fault. He wants to just look into the mind of Jake Paul and see what is actually the cause for all of this, and be able to understand how it has affected him. He doesn't want to just make the parents and Logan as well. You don't want to make them a very ingrained part of the series. He's trying to make them a part, because obviously it should be a part when going through the development of sociopathic tendencies. You want to go through the childhood of the person, which he has done in The Draw My Life, and it does explain in that video that his parents got divorced, and when they were going to Washington DC, he got 14 of those behaviour points or something, where he'd been bad 14 times or something and got that many bad points. And has that divorce influenced his behaviour and made him that way? Has he been trying to act like this person, but then the hard time that he expresses with the divorce of Greg and Pam, does that have an effect on the way he really is and how he has carried on living his life? In the Jake Paul's Draw My Life as well, that Shane reacts to and looks through, Jake describes the hate from his school friends and the people he grew up with. He got a lot of hate from them, from all the YouTube he was doing, and which I think, to be honest, made him overwork himself to be better. Like, he sees that the people he's grown up with, the people he could call his friends, they've just been diminishing his ideas of what he wants to do with his life. And obviously, for anyone, not just Jake Paul, that's not a good thing. You don't want the people you trusted to betray you like that. You wanted them to be exactly supportive, exactly how you want them to be. You want them to be exactly supportive of you, and you don't want them to just diminish your ideas just because they think it's not good. He wants the support, and that gave him, he got the support from football. But then when he moved on to wrestling and got the behaviour points, all that, probably from the divorce and all the hate, he became quite violent, I think. That violent aggressiveness, I think, it didn't pass off to hitting people a lot, except in wrestling, but the aggressiveness of being videoed by people and them shit-talking him all the time just made him overwork and try and be a better person in all his vlogs, and that has an effect on how he portrays himself in his vlogs. Like, he was always like that in his vlogs, but from the very first vlog, he was very, how can I put this? He was very crazy and savage and all of that, but I think that was an effect from how he felt from the cascading of his life. Like, he had the audience, but the people that he trusted didn't support him, which for anyone isn't good. So obviously that, I think, is influenced him. The violent aggressiveness, he's not attacked people, but attacked his work ethic and made him more hardworking and make him different to how he was going to be by putting out all this wacky stuff and just making it seem like the greatest thing ever, just so people like him, just so the people that he trusts, like his parents, like his stuff, just so he has that following of people enjoying what he likes, and he enjoys them as a person as well. He wants the close people to enjoy his stuff, and I think that's why the loss of a lot of Team 10, like Nick, the brothers, his best friend, all them, and Alyssa Violet, all that stuff might have downhearted him, and again influenced how he acts on YouTube. So that was the family of Jake Paul. Now on to the enemies of Jake Paul. So in the actual structure of the video, it starts off with like, oh, he's gonna go to Nick's house. It took him a while. Alright, boom, that should have took like 20 seconds maximum. You could just say, alright, it took me a while to make this because it took me a while to get Nick to actually agree to this, because he has this reason for not wanting to share things that about other people when they wouldn't want him to. But Jake has agreed to it, which Nick has agreed to it. So, boom, that's 20 seconds of your video done. And then you just go to his house and say, oh, this is a nice house. Let's meet Nick. Oh, hey Nick, how you doing? Boom. You cut all of that out. It took him 13 minutes of the entire video. 13 minutes. Just to get to beginning an interview with Nick. And then they kept moving a lot and showing a lot of the house. Like, we get it, Nick Crumpton's rich and he probably has made a tour of his house somewhere. I'm not sure, but you don't need to just go, oh my god, this is cool, there's a movie theatre, there's, I don't know, a massive table, oh, whoa, there's 2 fridges, never been 2 fridges in a house before, you'd never see that. But, like, it does go on about this stuff that no one's really interested in. Everyone is interested in how Nick Crompton feels about Jake. And they do explain it quite well, which does make people rethink and make me rethink everything that I have said. So, you see a lot of chaotic stuff in the Jake Paul vlogs. Like, it happens a lot, like every day. It's every day, bro. But Nick Crompton does specifically clarify that not all of that is as chaotic as it seems. Most of it has been planned previously, and it's just carried out forward and just made into the vlog. They plan it out and they do it all. And the twins, the Martinez twins, they came out with a video like, oh, you destroyed my room, oh, you bullied me, oh, you took 20% of my revenue for the Team 10 stuff. But, like, obviously, why didn't they come out with it before? There is that controversy, is why didn't they leave sooner? Why did they agree to the 20%? But then they go through that the room that they destroyed wasn't a real room, it was a fake room, and they made it for the vlog. So that does create a question as to, did the Martinez twins leave because they thought that Jake was bad, or did they leave either because they wanted to make themselves money and they were going to help Jake out because they actually liked Jake? Did they want to help him out as a creator but also themselves by sparking controversy? It does. Again, a lot of this stuff is conflicting in Shane Dawson. We don't get solid proof, and not proof, but solid answers. We get controversy after controversy after controversy and conflicting arguments that we just want straightforward answers. We don't want, could he be this? Does this mean this? We want, this is this, not all the stuff that you're portraying, Shane. So, obviously, he does explain that a lot of the stuff is faked. Obviously, some things, like maybe spitting on Alyssa Violet, pushing her into the thorns and laughing, obviously, he probably would see it as funny, but I wouldn't. Obviously, no, not many people would see it as funny. But if you're trying to get what I'm trying to understand here, is they fake the stuff, most of it, and he, in the videos with the pranks, he shows the sociopathic tendencies. He shows all this stuff. But if it's all fake, how much is an act and how much is actually sociopathic tendencies? Some stuff, like the climbing, he knows people are there and he's acting upon it and trying, he's either trying to make an audience happy or he's doing it because of the sociopathic tendencies. Again, we're not really sure. Hopefully all clears up in the next thing. But again, they do explain that there was bad stuff in the team's in-house and it wasn't all faked. Greg Paul, he went there, he took some authority but then ended up going back. But then he came back to the team 10 hours later and he took a lot of authority. He was like, oh, I'm Jake Paul's dad and Jake likes me more than you, so I'm going to take over and I'm going to make myself a better person than you. And I'm going to be on all these vlogs and I am going to be the best Team 10 member. You all suck. But yeah, Nick Crompton does explain that a lot of the stuff that happened with Greg Paul was a battle between him and Nick. Him and Greg did not obviously see eye to eye. They weren't very close, and obviously that was one of the main reasons that Nick Crompton left the Team 10 house. So there is, right, Nick Crompton kind of debunks the idea of sociopathic of a fully sociopath, because Nick Crompton, he knows Jake a lot, but you say that a sociopath doesn't have empathy or worry, but then Nick Crompton, who's very close to Jake, who was close to Jake before, said Jake has a lot of emotion. He has emotion in everything that he does. So already we're kind of getting debunked on Jake Paul's a sociopath. But the way I see, he's not a sociopath. He has the tendencies, obviously. We can all agree he has the tendencies. Even Jake would probably agree with that. But I think that he's lost these people, and the people he liked to betrayed him, and he's seen that as lots of bad things. But yeah, when he's got that confliction of fame all pushing in to him and making him look like a better person to everyone else, it does conflict his ideas of who he is as a person, because you can't really be really sad and lose an audience because people have gone. That would make sense if you lose audience when bad things happen. But then if you're gaining a lot more of an audience than you would normally, and the audience is all coming in, he's getting all this rush of fame, even though people are leaving him, it does kind of, I think that confliction, along with the divorce, has influenced how Jake acts to people. But I don't think he's a sociopath, and I think when I watch the next 4 episodes, he is not going to be a sociopath. They're just going to say he has tendencies, and Shane and Jake have made millions, to be honest. He's bloody getting like 15 million views, I think, at least, and there's at least 5 ads on the video, including a sponsorship. So imagine how much money Shane's going to be raking in from an 8-part series. Imagine all the watch time he's going to get. So, anyway, that was my first ever podcast, and it was on the first 4 episodes of Shane's review of Jake Paul, Is He a Sociopath? So, thanks for watching. I know this was a longer podcast than I expected. It's almost 40 minutes. Oof. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this, and the next podcast next week is going to be the other half of the Shane Dawson series. Anyway, thanks for watching, and see you later.